With the Alabama Crimson Tide set to host the second scrimmage of spring practice on Saturday, I wanted to talk about the wide receiver positions because we just got some information from Saban about two names that he thinks are really looking good in Xavier Williams and Javon Baker, and we need to get into it. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. So hop down to the comments and let me know. What wide receivers are you looking forward to seeing in A-Day, and who are your guys? And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification because I do constant college football content, player reviews, film analysis, talk style videos like this, and I'm on my push to 5,000 subscribers in my first year, and I have some really cool things planned for this channel, and I would love to have you along. But with all that being said and out the way, let's talk about the Alabama wide receiver position, and I think the first thing we need to talk about is John Mechie is not currently available. And this creates a problem, but a good problem. It creates a problem because right now in these scrimmages, the Crimson Tide have to operate with very limited experience in the wide receiver position, Slade Bolden probably returning the most. But the good part about that is with Mechie making himself available to become fully healthy for next season, really taking the time to let his body heal, it's allowing the Crimson Tide to develop more depth at that wide receiver position. And in a year like this, that's going to be absolutely key. This might be a room that's more of a receiver by committee, but that might not be a bad thing because this is a room that I believe has limitless amounts of potential. And whether we're talking about a guy that Saban named in Ziggy Williams or Xavier Williams, Javon Baker, or a guy like Tyu Jones-Bell, Trayshawn Holden, Ja'Cory Brooks, Ajayi Hall, Christian Leary, there is so much potential here. So I wanted to break down the wide receiver position going into the second scrimmage and going into A-Day, and really from a few different levels. First and foremost, what they each offer, and then secondly, how I think that they will fit in not only with Bryce Young, but also in some of the film I've picked up and watched on Bill O'Brien, and I have questions about the Bill O'Brien offense, specifically about his use of option routes. Now, Bill O'Brien in his capacities at the New England Patriots implemented, and it wasn't really his to implement, it was already there, but he really took it off on a whole new level, these route options. And when they work, they're almost unbeatable. But that's the problem. When they don't work and when they're not on time, it is absolute chaos, and it just is very hard to do. And it makes me wonder if at the college level, it's really feasible to be able to unlock these route options at their full capacity like he was able to do at the Patriots. However, I think one of the things that does give me hope in that regard is he is currently working with quarterback one, who we believe to be quarterback one based on everything we've heard, who I have made multiple videos on saying that is my pick to win the quarterback battle at the University of Alabama, which is Bryce Young. This is a guy who at Mater Day, the Mater Day coaches said they gave this guy everything. They really let him take control of this offense, and because of that, he's a very cerebral guy. I think in that regard, you really have to like what these wide receivers are going to be able to do based off of the Alabama Crimson Tide offense that has been implemented since Lane Kiffin. It has had variations through DeBall, through Loxley, through Sark, but at its core, it's remained a similar offense, and I'm very excited to see what wrinkles Bill O'Brien throws in it. But first and foremost, like I said, the route options are going to be interesting to see whether we see any of those implemented on A-Day. That's going to be interesting. And secondly, I think you can do a lot with your receivers based on a very cerebral quarterback in Bryce Young. But now looking specifically at the receivers, Saban said Javon Baker is a guy with a lot of physicality. And we need to remember the strength and conditioning staff last year was really lauding his explosiveness as well. And now he's got a full offseason with that same staff. And the Alabama Crimson Tide slam dunked the hire of the strength and conditioning staff. These guys are phenomenal. I cannot say enough about them. And so I'm really excited to see what he's able to do with a year of experience under him. Xavier Williams is a guy that Saban called a jack of all trades, and I think that that's very apt. Look, he's a guy that I think the Crimson Tide could look to do multiple different things, even something like punt return. Now, if the Crimson Tide had been able to get a guy like JoJo Earl on campus right now, he might be my pick for punt return, and that might be a little bit of bias in there because I saw him play in Texas multiple different times, and you can't tackle him in a phone booth. I watched him in the state championship game get his first touch, which should have been a catch for no gain, juke out 3 people, and take off down the sideline not to be caught for a 70-yard touchdown. This guy is legit. I made a video with the Tide Talk Sports crew talking about him when he was in the playoffs. This dude is unbelievable. But then there's guys like Christian Leary as well, who ran a 10.5 100-meter dash in Florida that is just lightning personified. So the Crimson Tide have options in the jack-of-all-trades Xavier Williams and the big physical guy in Javon Baker, in the guy that cannot be tackled and is like trying to wrap up smoke in JoJo Earl, who will get here over the summer, and in the absolute speedster in Christian Leary, but it doesn't end there. Your experience right now without Mechie in is coming from Slade Bolden, and I know there's some differing opinions on Slade Bolden, but this is what I will always say about Slade Bolden. He is phenomenal when you implement a new offense because of his ability to really understand where to go in a zone situation. He's very good at finding open space and attacking open space. And that right there is something that is very positive when you have a brand new quarterback and a brand new offensive system. So I do like that experience Slade Bolden brings in, and I think it will help the younger guys come up behind him. Now, a name that we have been hearing about that is a true freshman, Ajayi Hall. Someone who apparently is running much better routes, is much faster, and is making catches that usually older guys make in practice already. He's really turning heads, and he's a guy that I'm very excited to see during A-Day. Remember at the beginning of this when we talked about John Mechie being out creates this kind of weird dichotomy where you don't want him to be out. You'd rather have him there getting the experience with these guys, with the new quarterback, but he's a vet in the system. We'd like for him to be completely healthy, and also, it gets the new guys more experience. Ajayi Hall is a guy that is benefiting from that. Trayshawn Holden is a guy who is also taking reps with the first team, and wide receiver is a guy that I think could really surprise a lot of people. Very fluid in what he does, and he's got a lot of size. The Crimson Tide, I think, are going to have a very interesting kind of scheme this year because they have so many differing wide receiver styles, and I think the stylistic differences these wide receivers have are going to play off of each other very well. Your big body guys in Ajayi Hall, Ja'Cory Brooks, Trayshawn Holden, who are all deceptively smooth route runners and deceptively fast, but then you have your lightning guys and JoJo, Christian Leary, Xavier Williams. It's going to be very interesting to see, but even though this is a group that when Saban first talked about them said that he wasn't ready to name a guy that was really taking over, I think this is a group that at the end of this, we're going to be wondering how we're going to get them all touches. I think the Alabama Crimson Tide has a very good problem right now at the wide receiver position, and I've been on record saying such because there are so many talented guys. Remember, in the last class alone, the Crimson Tide signed 40% of the nation's top 10 wide receivers, and the stylistic differences of those guys are going to make it very hard for a defense to truly attack the Crimson Tide because they have to account for everything. But I cannot wait to hear what y'all think. What do you think of Saban kind of giving praise to Javon Baker and Xavier Williams? What do you think of the guys behind them, such as Trayshawn Holden, Tyu Jones-Bell, Ja'Cory Brooks, Ajayi Hall, Christian Leary? Who's your guy you're looking forward to seeing at A-Day? And let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.